Well, folks, the year is almost over, which means it's time for us to tally up the best and worst of 2024. Hi y'all, SnarkyJay Cosplay here. As of the time of this video's recording, we are just a little over 2 weeks away from the end of 2024, and boy, has this year been a doozy in just so many ways. But it's especially been a doozy in terms of cinema because we have seen amazing highs and incredible lows on this channel. So I thought, what better way to start closing out the year than to sit here and analyze the best and worst movies of 2024. We're gonna touch very briefly upon the meh and pretty good, and we'll go through the worst and best of 2024. And because this year I've also spent a lot of time just watching older releases, I do at one point want to just go briefly over movies that I happened to see this year that weren't released this year and give you guys my ratings on all of those. And at the very end of the video, I will give you my best movie of 2024 and my absolute worst. So stay tuned because those are going to be fun. But first, a word from this video's sponsor. If there's a time for us to try and save money, it's the holidays. With travel plans, gifts to buy, and expensive dinners to make, it's the most stressful time of year for my wallet, and being charged for subscription services I don't use does not make things any better. Well, today's sponsor, Rocket Money, is here to help. Rocket Money is the personal finance app to help you cancel subscriptions, lower bills, and manage your money better. I'm using Rocket Money to cancel subscriptions I no longer need or want. Rocket Money safely and securely identifies recurring charges and cancels unwanted subscriptions for me. I can cancel directly from the app with just a few taps, and I don't have to worry about customer service calls. I'm also using Rocket Money to set budgets. I had a grocery list of gifts to buy for my family this year, so it really helps to have Rocket Money analyzing my spending habits to create a personalized budget so I can stay organized and within my limits. Rocket Money has helped save its customers up to $740 a year when they use all the features, with over $500 million in canceled subscriptions. To save more and spend less, join the over 5 million members using Rocket Money today. Go to rocketmoney.com/snarkyj or click the link in the description below to get started. You can also unlock even more features with premium. That's rocketmoney.com/snarkyj to get started for free. We're gonna kick it off with the meh movies that came out in 2024, starting with Night Swim. Really interesting horror concept, but a totally weak execution. It honestly felt like Blue Ball Central in that I was on the hook the entire time and it pretty much went nowhere. Next up, Twisters. Nobody asked for this, and I watched it for free at home and still felt like I'd paid too much for it. The only redeeming quality was Glenn Powell shirtless in a cowboy hat. Next up, Godzilla Kong: The New Empire. I realize I am so not the right audience for these big monster stomping movies. I watched this at a free screening that I went to because my best friend loves Godzilla, and I think I spent the entire time squirming in my seat wishing it was over. Surprisingly on this list, because I had high hopes for it, The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. Maybe Guy Ritchie movies just aren't my style, but not even Henry Cavill and Alan Ritchson could make this absolutely historically inaccurate bore fest worth watching. Unpopular opinion, Inside Out 2. Yet another sequel that I thought was completely unnecessary and definitely lacked the heart and personality of the first one. The first Inside Out was charming and heartbreaking, and this one wasn't even entertaining as background noise while I was crafting. Next on the list, A Quiet Place Day One. I really haven't liked any of these films, but this one just felt so meh. It just honestly felt completely inconsequential. I didn't really develop a relationship mentally with any of the characters, and I really could have just gone without it. Up next, Wolves. I like George Clooney, I like Brad Pitt, I didn't like this movie. The dialogue was weak and I felt like I was watching two guys slightly out of their prime compete to show me which one could be the more likable asshole. Spoiler alert, nobody won, not even me, and the movie just devolved into nonsense that I was wishing was over for the entire last 45 minutes. And last for 2024's Meh Awards, Carry On. I wanted so badly to like this. I like Taron Egerton and I love Jason Bateman, especially when he gets to play dramatic roles, but this one felt like it was written by high schoolers for an exam and it completely fell apart at the end. I just really couldn't suspend disbelief hard enough to buy into this basic TSA superhero movie. Now for my pretty good portion, I only have 2 movies to put in this one. Number 1 is Hundreds of Beavers. There are so many jokes I could make about this title, but I'm not gonna be that guy. This movie was technically released in 2022, but it hit streaming in 2024. It's a mostly silent film following an Applejack salesman who must become the greatest fur trapper by literally defeating hundreds of beavers. It's inspired by the slapstick comedy of the 1920s and 30s, and the entire time I found myself wondering if somebody had slipped me shrooms or something while I was watching this, but it was actually f***ing hilarious. And number 2 for 2024's pretty good, Ricky Stenicki. Honestly, John Cena rocked this one. He plays the fake Ricky Stenicki who has taken the blame for the antics of a group of buddies over the past 20 or so years, and this one honestly has the same feel of those older comedies like Wedding Crashers or Dodgeball that just don't get made anymore, but it admittedly does not have very much rewatchability, but as far as releases this year go, it was pretty entertaining. Now in the spirit of the holidays, we're gonna go through the best first, then we're gonna hit up the worst. So let's go. My top 5 movies for 2024 are as follows. Number 5, Late Night with the Devil. This is an incredibly weird but pretty effective movie. It's kind of a found footage horror movie about a 1977 broadcast gone horribly wrong, and while I can't say it's outright horrifying because it does have some campy elements, it's actually a great story and really did a good job of putting me at unease, which is definitely one of the better qualities of good horror. Number 4, The Bike Riders. Even though I've seen mixed reviews from the public on this one, this film that kind of plays like a fake documentary follows a motorcycle club in the Midwest and features fantastic performances. Jodie Comer, Austin Butler, and Tom Hardy highlight a star-studded cast, and humor, tension, drama, and surprisingly enough, heart really made this a refreshing watch this year. Number 3, Speak No Evil. I am typically not a big fan of remakes, but this one for me is an instant classic. James McAvoy is as inappropriate and frightening as he is delicious. This movie, following a holiday gone horribly wrong, is a must-watch for 2024. The tension is palpable the whole time, and if you're not on the edge of your seat during this one, I just don't know what kind of person you are. Number 2, The Great Lillian Hall. This drama follows aging Broadway actress Lillian Hall as she struggles with some form of dementia. It features brilliant performances from powerhouse actresses Jessica Lange and Kathy Bates, with Lily Rabe and Pierce Brosnan rounding out this fantastic cast. It's a really powerful film about identity and legacy, and it definitely moved me all the way through. I'm gonna keep number 1 to myself just a little bit longer, so let's go over the 5 worst movies of 2024. Number 5, Beetlejuice. I feel like an alternate title for this movie could have just been Michael Keaton Needs a Paycheck and You Need a Dose of Nostalgia, because that's the only thing worthwhile about this movie. Performances are lacking, the plot was weak and boring, it's definitely a modern take on a character that really didn't need one, and it makes entirely too much of an effort to be weird in an uncharming way that does not really pay homage to the original. Number 4, Trap. The real Trap was M. Night Shyamalan making me sit through a 2-hour commercial for his daughter's subpar music. Unfortunately, M. Night Shyamalan made a name for himself, at least in my home, with films like The Sixth Sense and one of my surprising favorites, Signs. But unfortunately, there was no redeeming quality to be found in this film, not even in Josh Hartnett trying his absolute best to be unsettling, but kind of playing it like he was in a middle school play. This was incredibly boring, unbelievable, and just all around bad. Number 3, Joker, Folie à Deux. You know how the first one felt completely disconnected from the MCU and probably could have just been about mental illness without being tied to the Joker character, but it was made with an incredibly personal performance, and for that reason people loved it? Yeah, so the second one gets tied to the DC universe in a musical way that is more painful than sitting down on an angry gang of hemorrhoids. Absolutely fucking awful. Number 2, Madam Web. What can I say about this movie that hasn't already been said? There was nothing redeemable, not one good thing about this movie, and to be honest, the entire hour and a half that I sat watching it, I felt like I was being punished for something that I'd done in a past life, and I really hadn't contemplated that in a long time. Again, I'm gonna keep number 1 to myself just for a few more minutes. I know I'm such a tease, but right now we're gonna rapid fire through all the movies that I watched this year that weren't released in 2024, and I'm gonna give you a rating for each. And yes, I know the fact that I watched some of these for the first time this year is a red flag, but give me a break, I'm still sort of young. Deja Vu, Primal Fear, Gothica, The Devil's Advocate, Training Day, Good Will Hunting, Fallen, A Time to Kill, Malice, Fracture, Shutter Island, Dolores Claiborne, Pacific Heights, The Help, Fried Green Tomatoes, The Prestige. And now, babies and gentlemen, the moment you've all been waiting for, my best and worst film of 2024. And if you know me or this channel at all, I'm sure you've already guessed what it is, but I need a little drama in my life, right? Drum roll, please. My best film of 2024 was Deadpool and Wolverine. And yes, I can acknowledge that my review 100% called it plotless fun, and I struggled to even give it a numerical rating. But what I think was really important about Deadpool and Wolverine for me this year was the fact that I actually had fun in the cinema, and it really plunged me back into that sort of fangirl energy that I hadn't seen in years. And while that's typically not the way I like to rate movies, I don't really like to do the whole I turned off my brain and had fun kind of thing. This was just one of those movies that I found so fun, and it was such a good time. And yeah, I think the rewatchability is absolute shit. I'm not worried about it. But performances from both Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman were phenomenal. It was a lot of fun. The cameos were a blast, and the entire film felt like a roller coaster ride. And I want to acknowledge that I watched it among some of my closest friends, and for that reason, it was such a great cinematic experience that it might not have been the best movie, but it was my best movie experience. Personally, I had a lot of fun with Deadpool and Wolverine, and for that reason, it takes the number 1 spot for me this year, just because it reminded me of all the things that I once loved about movies and all the joy that I used to have. And the worst film for 2024, which should surprise absolutely no one, The Crow. This fucking disaster of a reboot was not only one of the worst movies I've ever seen in a very general sense, but it was also a personally offensive piece of shit that almost led me to cry real tears of real anger while sitting in the theater, and I can't say that's ever happened to me in any other way. This one hit harder than a bad breakup. It hit harder than a nail in an expensive Pirelli tire. This was an absolute fucking nightmare, with zero redeeming qualities and not even a good performance from the incredible Bill Skarsgård. The Crow 2024 failed on literally every level, to the point that I almost feel bad even saying it, but that is how absolutely fucking atrocious this movie was. Yes, it gave me plenty of content, but it also gave me plenty of reasons to have nightmares and even more reasons to want to turn to drinking. Well, folks, it's that time for us to wrap up the year of 2024. That was my year in film. I hope some of those films that I've reviewed you guys have enjoyed watching with me. I know that I mentioned so many more movies that I didn't review, but I don't really do retroactive reviews. I did enjoy watching as many films as I watched this year, and I hope that 2025 has more in store because, God, some of these were just so weak. But that remains to be seen, and I am so excited to go through 2025's movies with you guys. And that's all from me. I've been SnarkyJay. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. For more SnarkyJay, be sure to check me out on Instagram, and if you'd like to support me, this channel, and my content creation, do check out and consider subscribing to my Patreon for exclusive photo shoot sets and cosplay content. I'll add links to all of those in the description below. And let me know your best and worst movie of 2024 in the comments below.